Hello, I'm Tim Christensen, and this is my hometown of Colwyn Bay. In this presentation, I will explain a bit about the town and the potential impacts it faces from the changing climate between now and the year 2050. Colwyn Bay is a seaside town of just over 30,000 people, located on the northern coast of Wales in the British Isles. Built largely in the early 1900s as a seaside holiday resort servicing the northwest of England, the town is built largely of medium-density, Victorian-style brick terraces and has expanded through the construction of housing and commercial developments throughout the decades. In the 1980s, a high-speed vehicle expressway was built through the middle of Colwyn Bay, bisecting it from its beach but placing flood defence of the town under the purview of central government. This, combined with a period of nationwide economic malaise in many seaside towns, led to a long period of economic decline. Since the turn of the millennium, Colwyn Bay has managed to reverse much of this decline, largely through significant government investments in regeneration and direct employment. Nonetheless, significant demographic and social barriers continue to hinder Colwyn Bay's prosperity. Unfortunately, this is a pattern replicated across much of the region around it. The demographic pattern is inherently dysfunctional, as younger people leave to study and fail to return, replaced only in equal numbers by the elderly of northwest England who move here to retire by the seaside. This vacuum of skilled working-age adults, combined with the relative economic inactivity of much of the elderly segment of the population, means that household incomes in Colwyn Bay trail the national average by a wide margin. However, in recent years, a renewal of the town built on mitigation of the impacts of our changing climate, together with the potential for a future green energy bonanza, have brought a new hope to this underperforming community. This is something we will examine in greater detail in a few minutes' time. First, we will explore the current climate of Colwyn Bay and how it is likely to change in the coming decades. Much like the rest of the British Isles, Colwyn Bay has a mild oceanic climate, with comparatively high rainfall throughout the year. This type of climate is typified by a relatively narrow temperature range across the 4 seasons and fairly consistent levels of atmospheric humidity. Extreme weather phenomena such as thunderstorms are generally very rare here, as these are typically caused by weather fronts of extreme heat and cold colliding. This seldom happens anywhere in the UK, largely due to the moderating influence of the North Atlantic Gulf Stream, a tropical oceanic current, which allows the UK to enjoy much milder weather than its latitude would otherwise permit. We need only look across the North Sea to our neighbours in Scandinavia to see what our alternate fate would look like. The town experiences approximately 814 millimetres of rainfall per year, spread out over 145.7 days. This follows fairly predictable seasonal patterns. In spring and summer, approximately 1 day in 3 will see rainfall, increasing to approximately 1 day in 2 during the cooler months of autumn and winter. The pattern of rainfall deviates somewhat from the UK national average, which has 885 millimetres of rainfall falling over 133 days. This means Colwyn Bay is drier than the UK average, but spreads out rainfall over a greater frequency of days. This volume of rainfall in the town has never been considered much of a threat to anything other than the residents' hairstyles. Thankfully, the gentle hillside gradient the majority of the town is built on allows this surface water to escape down to the sea largely without incident, with a little help from the Victorian drainage system. This means that the town itself is not typically susceptible to weather-related flash flooding. Another beneficial phenomenon which affects Colwyn Bay is known as firn winds. This occurs when southerly winds pass over mountainous regions, in this case mid-Wales and the Snowdonia National Park, before warming and drying as they descend towards lower altitudes. This may be the reason Colwyn Bay has held a rather obscure record since November 1938, that of the highest November temperature ever recorded in Wales, in this case a balmy 15 degrees Celsius. The town experiences fairly consistent wind speeds throughout the year, with a slight dip in the warmest summer months. An examination of Met Office records shows that this is consistent with the town's westerly coastal position. Due to its location, Colwyn Bay is very susceptible to tidal storm surges, which often do significant damage to public and private property, as well as causing loss of economic activity due to closure of key coastal access routes to and from the town. Since the construction of the promenade during the Victorian era, gradual erosion of the sand which has protected it has left the promenade increasingly exposed to the vagaries of the Irish Sea. Since 2010, 13 incidents of damage caused by these tidal surges have been significant enough to be recorded in the local press, with arguably many more minor incidents passing unremarked. The large embankment which separates the town from the promenade exists largely to protect the A55 expressway, but it is itself frequently damaged and eroded by tides which have breached the promenade wall. The UK CP09 climate projections predict that Wales as a whole, by 2050, will have more polarised seasonal temperatures and rainfall under all three emissions scenarios. All three of the possible scenarios given show an increased temperature throughout the year, and an increased concentration of precipitation during winters, with drier, warmer summers. This is broadly in line with the trend across Northern Europe predicted in the IPCC Fifth Assessment Report. Although the IPCC did predict an increase within northwestern Europe of intense spells of rainfall, it did not find any reliable evidence to suggest that there would be any increase in windstorms to accompany this change. Arguably the most significant symptom of climate change in Colwyn Bay is a predicted rise in sea levels. A recent report by the Committee on Climate Change has recently forecast rises in sea levels of up to 1 metre in neighbouring England by the end of the century. If accurate, this would likely be replicated in full around the full extent of the Welsh coastline. Colwyn Bay's location and topology mean that the A55 is the most at-risk segment of the town from the projected climate changes we've just examined. This can be disrupted by either flash flooding, most likely in winter due to higher concentrations of rainfall, or from damage to the protective embankment between the expressway and the promenade and seafront. This could be caused by tidal surges arising from higher sea levels and more extreme winter weather. However, the sensitivity of the A55 to these risks has been taken seriously. Due to the proximity of the expressway to the seafront, major long-term sea defence works have recently been carried out at Colwyn Bay. This was undertaken in an interesting manner which potentially showcases how climate change mitigation measures can have enormously beneficial impacts for the communities in which they are undertaken. Tidal defence works at Colwyn Bay were undertaken through the construction of a new, tourist-friendly promenade and through recharging of the beach with significant quantities of filtered sand. This has made the once neglected and oft-battered waterfront an attractive draw for visitors to the town. Further well-paid jobs have been provided just offshore. The North Hoyle and Gwyntermore wind farms are some of the largest offshore wind power installations in Europe, providing clean and sustainable energy while pouring money into the local economy. One of the most exciting prospects for Colwyn Bay's green renaissance is yet to materialise. A mooted tidal power lagoon, originally intended to follow the now mothballed smaller tidal lagoon in Swansea. This lagoon would take advantage of Colwyn Bay's naturally high tidal range, creating abundant and reliable energy, and would also serve to protect the town from damaging tidal surges. The IPCC's Fifth Assessment Report also strikes a surprisingly positive note for one of Colwyn Bay's most important sectors, tourism. The report predicts a broad trend of decreasing tourism in the south of Europe and an increase in northern regions. Given the likely damage to much of the UK's coastline from a projected higher sea levels, Colwyn Bay is well positioned to capitalise on these predicted trends, as its naturally high position and recently reinforced sea defences are likely to leave it in a much better shape than many of its potential competitors. It is apparent across the range of IPCC predicted scenarios that Colwyn Bay is likely to withstand the impacts of climate change better than most. Warmer summers can help bring tourists, and the worst impacts of any potential rise in sea level have already been mitigated by recent coastal defence works. In the proposed tidal lagoon, the town has an enormous opportunity to be at the vanguard not only of a pioneering type of green energy, but showing the country at large how embracing sustainability can be the key to breaking a vicious cycle of economic and social deprivation. Only one thing is certain: change is coming. It is up to Colwyn Bay to be ready to embrace it. Thank you for watching.